What's up guys, Cat Protagonist here. Today I'll be doing a deck profile on Yuga's Katana World Draninja deck from the brand new Climax booster, Golden Garga. As promised, here's a deck profile on my very own Draninja deck. I've been testing this deck for a while now and I've optimized this deck according to its specialization, which is to tutor ninja arts from the deck to counter according to each matchup. So in general, if you have great analysis and observation, you'll be able to fetch out whatever cards you need to counter your opponent's deck. So what makes Draninja unique compared to its other world counterpart is its search power and draw engine, allowing you to farm your combo pieces easily while maintaining hand size to counter against your opponents. Later in the video, I will show you a 3 gauge 50 damage combo that's really easy to pull off, so they can show your friends and impress them. So let's jump right into the deck profile. For the buddy, we play Kakori Dragon because its ability to allow you to use different worlds in your deck is very important, and this makes most Garga decks really fun to play and gives you a lot of versatility. So as long as you're playing any form of Dragod deck, it is highly recommended to make Garga your buddy. So let us go through the monsters. First up, we play 4 copies of Kakori Dragon, aka Shin Garga. So with this amazing card as buddy, you'll be able to use any Garga from any world, and its core cost of 1 gauge makes it really cheap, and it has an awesome stats of 10, 3, 5. It has a counter ability to revert itself after evolving, which is really good because whichever unit evolve and swing, you can always pay 1 gauge to revert to deal an extra attack. This ability is also very useful, especially if you survive during opponent's turn and Garga still happen to be in your soul. You can just pay 1 gauge after initial attack and revert it back so they can continue on your G Evo combos. So once again, we are going to go through the DG Evo, which is Shin G Evo in Japanese. It's a once per turn G Evo which allows you to draw 1 card before G Evoing. Really good because it allows you to expand your hand so that you have more options to go into. Also, just to recap, if you're being attacked during your opponent's turn, and once per turn you can also draw 1 card to G Evo, so do take note. It also has penetrate and the ability move, which is pretty important because you sometimes want to move to certain zones, especially during turns which you call tokens with your Draninjas. For the Gargas, I do play a different variant from the Dragon World version because each world has its specialization, and therefore it is very important to match your deck according to its specialization, which is to lower your draw power for more offense. And this Garga actually fills the role because it is able to deal 18 crit by itself, which is very powerful. So let's go into the Gargas. So first up, we play 2 copies of Space Garga, aka Kaiser. Kaiser is still a very good balance unit. Being able to balance between offense and defense, it makes for excellent first turn play because you'll be able to get 2 cards from the top of the deck and add it to your hand. So potentially it's kind of like a Sonic mode, but it's also very useful during turns which you need to push for game because it has triple attack when you check a monster on the top of the deck. So yeah, 2 copies of Kaiser because it's such a versatile card, and 2 copies just feels right in the deck. Next up, 2 copies of Gargantuan Kaiser. This guy is also very important in the deck because right now we do play a lot of weapons, and most of us Draninja players know how important the weapon is. Back then we do not have any item searches, which is pretty unfortunate, but right now we have the Gargantuan Dragon that searches out a weapon and also helps you push for game. So there are 2 ways to actually use it. Firstly is during the first turn, if you already have your Gargantuan Dragon and you don't have an item equipped, you just G Evo into it, search your deck for an item and equip it by paying 1 gauge. Second way to use it is to G attack, G Evo. So when it enters the field, you can pay 1 gauge to equip this card from your deck. Then the G Evo ability, this guy gains 2 crit, this card gains 2 crit. And just like that, this guy instantly becomes 5 crit because it's 2 base crit plus its G Evo 2 crits, and the weapon gives it 1 additional crit. It's a 5 crit double attacker, which means by itself it deals 10 damage. And since the item gains 2 critical, it becomes 4 attack, and that's a total of 14 criticals. So 1 G Evo for 14 criticals is such value, and it's very useful in the deck. So you either use him as a tutor early game to fetch out your weapon, or to push for tons of damage. Other than being an item recruiter, he also gives you a huge amount of power. By itself, it's 40k, which means you'll be able to run through Max Dragons and Mystic Knights. You go into Kaiser mode, they definitely will go down because 40k is a huge amount of power, and this makes it one of the strongest units in the game. And also gotta play for its awesome art. Next up, the Ninja Engine. We play 2 copies of Kakori Dragon. This is one of my favorite dragons in the deck just because of its art and its utility. Right now, this is what I consider the Sonic mode of the deck because it allows you to fetch up any ninja arts in the deck. And as you guys know, ninja arts are very powerful in Katana World. With all these ninja arts, you will be gaining pluses or controlling your opponent based on the situation. So this card requires the user to have a lot of critical thinking because fetching the right card is really crucial for the game. So it is the core cost of paying 2 gauge and putting your top card of the deck into it. So, and when this card enters the field, put up to 1 ninja arts from your deck into your hand and then shuffle your deck. Then if it's entered by G Evo, you can do 2 damage to your opponent and gain 2 life, which is really good. Basically, this card is also a FTK enabler. There's so many things you can do with this deck, which makes it such an awesome deck. Alright, one reason why I really like this over Sonic mode is because, yes, Sonic mode does fetch you the 2 cards when you G Evo, but what happens if you do not have base form Garga? Sonic Mode is totally dead. However, for this guy, he is very useful because he allows you to search for ninja arts, which will fix your consistency. So most of the time, if I do not have any Gargas in the hand, generally just have a lot of spells which I can get rid of. What I'll do is, depending on my hand, if I have either one of these cards, so let's say I have this card in my hand, I will search up for the Gauge Adder, and I'll activate the ability to draw 2 cards and charge 2 Gauge. So this way you're not losing anything to cycle your hand, so they can hopefully draw into your Shin Gargantua Dragon. So that's one reason why it is better than Sonic Mode in certain aspect, is because if you go to call Sonic Mode, all it does is just give you 2 life and it doesn't really do much by paying 2 Gauge. It does help you tank a bit, but that's about it. Whereas this guy is to give you the Shining Hope of Light and give you a chance to play out of your situation. Potentially I actually play foil in this deck because of some of the ninja arts I play in the deck, which is the 2 copies of Searchlight. Most of my ninja version of Garga, I will be playing 2 Searchlight as a fueler. So if you look in this perspective, you actually play 4 copies of Kakori Dragon. And also the infamous FTK, very easily done right now because we have so much draw power. What you do is you just write to any of your G-Evo, even the base form Daybreak Garga would do. You just attack. Most of the time you need to have your weapon equipped, so it'd be a 4 critical. You just G-Evo, and if you were to have impact in your hand, it's basically game, because you see 4 damage plus enter field 2 damage, and then your opponent's left 4, you just impact with 5 damage. So yeah, that's an easy FTK, and I do pull it off very often against my opponents, stealing so many wins against many of these meta decks. Kakori Dragon is definitely my favorite first turn plays because during the first turn you can only attack once, and you just attack and G-Evo once and you get a +1 from his ability. And if you guys are saying yes, but Sonic Mode allows you to draw 2 cards, I can also draw 2 cards by searching out this ninja art as well. He's pretty much Sonic Mode. If you want to draw power, you can draw, and also you can get any of the search spell. One of the tactics I play in this deck is if I were to go first or second and I were to G-Evo into him, I can search my deck for any of the counter cards that I need against my opponents. This one against Mystic Knights, this one against Amaterasu because they dread bounce. 1 bounce and they are instant game. And this card against D-Dragons because this card allows you to break 2 cards on the board. So you just break your item and set spell and they are pretty much dead as well. So Kakori Dragon is such an underrated Dragod. The next Draninja we play is 2 copy of Fuma Dragon, a very old classic, and it's still a very good card right now because it allows you to fetch Dragods from the drop zone. So its core cost is put a card from a drop zone into your soul and pay 1 Gauge. So once again, you'll be able to fetch back your Shin Garga if Shin Garga is already in the drop zone. So previous turn, if it's destroyed, you can just pay 1 Gauge core, get Shin Garga in soul, attack, double attack, call the tokens, revert back, attack, G-Evo into something else, then do an extra attack. This guy is just really important because for 1 Gauge, you'll be able to fix a lot of problems. And even if you do not have your Shin Garga in the early game, he's alright because he itself can really hold on against your opponents. What I do sometimes is actually use his counter ability, because usually we have a Soul Guard, so they attack me once, Soul Guard, attack me twice, I'll just use the ability to become token, and they attack me, so basically you have 1 extra wall, they have to attack you 3 times in general. So it's a pretty decent first turn play. So something to note is, as long as he has a card with G-Evo in his soul, so it could be cards like these. This is also considered G-Evo in soul. So if you happen to have this in the drop zone, you can actually just pay 1 Gauge and put this card in the soul, and you already have the ability to call 2 tokens instead of 1. So yeah, take note of that because it really helps you in a lot of situations. Now we play 1 copy of Shin Fuma Dragon, basically Deity Fuma Dragon. So this is the guy that allows you to do 18 damage in 1 single turn. Reason why is because your item gives all your monsters +1 additional crit, and think about it, these tokens will be spawning so many times because of its ability, and therefore in total calculation it is 18 critical damage. So its core cost is to put a card from a drop zone into soul and pay 2 Gauge. So in a way it's similar to Fuma Dragon because it allows you to fetch back your Shin Gargantua Dragon from the drop zone so they can continue your combos later on. If this card has a soul with a G-Evo, all monsters on your field gains 5k attack power. So with its tokens being 6k and 5k, which means it's all 11k. Really good because you'll be able to link attack against max dragons to take them down. And also what makes this guy really powerful is his multi-attack. In total this card does 6 triple attacks, which means it does 6 attacks because of its ability to spawn tokens while attacking, and it has triple attack. So at the end of the battle that this card attack, put up to 1 card of the top of the deck face down as a Dragod, size 0662 monster. One thing I really like about this guy is that spawning tokens doesn't count as core, so it's not affected by loyalty. And this one single card does a lot of damage. The only downside is it doesn't have any counter plays during your opponent's turn. That's why I only play 1 copy, because potentially we still play 3 copies, so we can search it up. Now for our little animal friends, we play 2 copies of Nincat. Its ability is very important because it allows you to charge and draw, and also discarding cards. One way to gain access to huge draw power is actually by discarding cards, which is the specialty of ninja arts. And most of the time what we discard are cards like this, which allows us a plus. When this card is discarded, you can charge and draw. When this card is discarded, you can charge 2 Gauge, which is Dragonic Charge, very important. because I properly balance this deck so that you have the proper amount of gauge and draw ratio, which means you have a lot of hand size while having the right amount of gauge to finish off your opponents. So Nincat also has 2 crits, so they can actually kind of cat punch your opponent, which is nice. Next up, 2 copies of Ninbird. Ninbird looks really serious here, but unfortunately it looks like he lowered the knives immediately after that. Really cute flavor text right there. This guy really works well with the deck right now because we have the G Evo spell from the drop zone, counter ability. So during your opponent's turn, you don't really have to rely too much on the token spawning to gain your pluses, whereas you can actually Shin G Evo one of the monsters, so you can pull off its ability to speed up your deck. So, you may only call 1 Ninja Knives once per turn. When a Dragod monster enters your field, you can discard 1 card. If you do, gain 2 life. Check the top 3 cards of the deck and put 1 card among them into your hand and the rest to the bottom of the deck. This ability only activates once per turn. So yeah, getting the plus during your turn and your opponent's turn is just amazing. So now let's go into the spell. For this spell, we play 4 copies of Art of Truancy. Art of Truancy is one of my favorite spells in the deck because it allows you to draw so many cards, and this is one of the main reasons why Katana World is the king of draw power. It is a set spell, so you'll be able to reuse its ability so many times. Other than drawing U cards, this card is very important because it has the ability to prevent your DDTs from being destroyed. All DT Dragon type monsters and items on your field cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect. This is very good, especially against Dramagi, which actually has the ability to control monsters, but with this card set, they won't be able to do a thing to your monsters. My favorite ability of this card is of course the activate ability. You may discard a ninja arts from your hand and pay 1 gauge. If you do, draw 2 cards. This set spell basically converts all your ninja arts into nice ones, which is amazing. And also a nice one to give you even more pluses. Sign me up, man. Next up, the best combination for the Art of Truancy is 4 copies of Futon Sweeping Whirlwind. Futon, which means wind arts. It has 2 abilities. Either put a ninja monster from your drop zone into your hand, or when this card is discarded from your hand by card effects, charge 1 gauge and draw 1 card. So which means you usually activate this ability, pay 1 gauge and discard this card, so you get to draw 2 cards, then charge and draw, which means you get 3 cards and 1 gauge. So this is usually the classic combo you pull off with the Art of Truancy. And here are some cards that triggers discarding. This card, when it enters the field, you can discard 1 card, charge and draw and heal. This card, when you're being attacked directly, you can discard 1 card, you can discard this and nullify the attack. It's not once per turn, so as long as you have enough ninja arts, you can nullify as much attack as 1. So you discard Sweeping Whirlwind and charge and draw, getting basically a free negate. And also by Art of Getting Fish is slightly a different way. By using a second ability, by fetching 2 different DG type monster items on your field, if you take 2 cards, you must discard 1 card. So you can discard this to charge and draw. So this card gives you a lot of pluses when comboed with discarding cards, and there's tons of them in this deck. Next up, 4 copies of Art of Getting Fish. Not only I love this art, I love the name, and this card is just absolutely bonkers right now. This card has 2 abilities. First up, when this card is dropped by your card effects, charge 2 gauge. So this card goes really well with Art of Truancy once again, because sometimes you do deplete too much of a gauge by paying too much and drawing too much. So you definitely want to have a good balance of draw and gauge. Its second ability is put up a total of 2 DDT monsters or items with different names from your drop zone into your hand. If you put 2 cards, you must discard 1 card. So if you only add back 1 monster, you do not need to discard any cards. The reason why this card is so important is because it allows you to fetch back 2 different Dragods, which is very important because if you do not have your DT Garganta Dragon and your evolved form on your hand, you basically can't do anything during your turn. So with this card, you are guaranteed to have at least a base form and an evolved form so that you can pull off some sick combos. And also, this ability to be discarded gain some gauge really helps fix gauge problems. So 3 to 4 copies is a recommended amount. Next up, one of my favorite draw spells in the game is 3 copies of Garga. Not only this card has a very cute art, this card is very flexible in terms of drawing because of its counter ability, so playing 3 or even 4 is never dead in the hand because you can use it even during your opponent's turn. You may only cast a card with a Dragod monster on your field, and the total power of cards on field is 12k or greater. So counter ability, draw 2 cards. You may only cast Garga once per turn. Okay, so how do you get Garga activated is, most of the time you need to have a Shin Garga on the field and a random monster. So this is total of 12k attack power, so you can activate this. Another way is to have your item equipped and a Shin Garga on the field. Another consistent way if you don't have any of these is to have your Wind Demon out and activate Wind Demon skill to spawn a token. This makes a total of 12. You can always call Deity Wind Fuma Dragon so that you can use the Garga to draw into some options during your turn. Next up, one of my favorite all-time spells, 3 copies of Radiant Combat Deity's Glory. This card is amazing in all Dragod deck and must be played 3 to 4. So this awesome spell allows you to G-Evo from the drop zone, triggering your G-Evo abilities, which gives you a lot of pluses. And also gives your monsters additional stats such as 5k attack and 5k defense, which makes your monsters much more tankier to attack into. This card is amazing during both your turn and your opponent's turn. During your turn, you can cast it for extra damage push, such as an additional G-Evo, so that you swing for extra attacks. And during your opponent's turn, you can cast it to evolve from the drop zone, so they can use its G-Evo ability, which allows you to search your deck for any ninja art and add to your hand. So we play 3 copies of G Evo spell because it is a must-have in all Dragod decks right now. Next, we play 2 copies of the Ninja Search spell, Searchlight. So this card is really important right now because it allows you to tutor out any Draninja based on the situation. During turn 1, usually I actually search for Kakori Dragon to search out for any counters or any spells I need against my opponents. If it's my finishing turn, I either search out for the boss monster or this, depending on how much gauge I have. Playing 2 copies allows me to free up more space for different types of Draninja in the deck, increasing this variety and versatility. So if you think about it, it kind of works like this. Now we play 4 copies of Kakori Dragon. Now we play 4 copies of Fuma Dragon. And we play 3 copies of Shin Fuma Dragon. So this really helps the ratio because right now these 2 search spell basically becomes any Draninja you need based on the situation. So 2 copies is just right and I highly recommend it. Next, 2 copies of Ninja Arts Hiding in Fallen Leaves. So it's a counter ability of gain 3 life, really handy in certain situations, especially against impacts like Vanity Zero Blazer. They see you at 10 damage, you cast this, you're still alive, and you can definitely finish them off during your turn. But its second ability is the most important. When this card is discarded from your hand by card effects, you can gain 1 life and draw a card. In a way, it's similar to Futon because it allows you to plus when discard. So it's basically a discard fodder. And I really like it because I discard so much to plus in this deck. So 2 copies is right. Now it's time for my Ninja Tech cards, which is searchable by Kakori Dragon. Usually I use Kakori during my first turn play, and these are the Ninja Arts I search through its ability. So let's go through them. 1 copy of Shadow Flash Lash. You may only cast a card if you have a Dragod monster and your total power is 12k and above. So counter ability, you can choose one of the following abilities. Either for this turn, up to 3 cards on field gain plus 1 additional critical. Destroy up to 2 cards on your opponent's field. I usually search this card against decks such as D-Dragons. With this card, I can quickly wipe their board so that it can cast cards that can counter because they have no D-Dragons on the field. And also its ability to gain crit is really powerful, especially during turns when I use this card. Giving this card additional crit makes it a 4 crit. 4 critical triple attacks make this card a 12 critical in total alone. And don't forget there's tokens, so in total there'll be 21 damage. Really powerful card and very versatile. You can use this card to control opponents or buff out Dragods, a really versatile card. The next card we search is 1 copy of Art of Diversion Kunai. This card is also from Golden Garga and its ability is very powerful in this meta, especially against Mystic Knights. You may only cast card if Dragod on the field by paying 1 gauge and 1 life. Rest all monster opponent's field. So basically against Mystic Knight, you rest your whole board. All you need to worry is about their unnullifiable weapon, and this card is a huge lifesaver, especially going against Mystic Knights. And this card is also great against Mirror Match because you definitely want to rest their Dragod so they won't be able to use G Evo. 1 copy of Ninja Arts Water Technique. So this card is a slightly heavier cast cost, but it's totally worth it, especially when fighting against Amaterasu. By paying 2 gauge and bouncing back their weapon when they want to transform, especially during my turn if I'm going to kill, they want evolve to Amaterasu, they activate ability, I counter, bounce back, they have no more items on the field, I can just safely swing because they can never negate me at all, and I'm guaranteed to win the game during that turn. This is why Water Technique is such a great card against Amaterasu, and we have the gauge to back us up. So 1 copy. And the last card I search for sometimes is 1 copy of Celestial Arts Returning Water. It is surprisingly a Ninja Arts. Its cast cost is destroy a monster on the field, so one good thing, it can prevent penetrate against certain matchups. If they were to penetrate a monster, you can just send it off. Or you can send off your tokens, since they'll be on the board anyway and they'll be placed most of the time. You can basically give yourself a free charge and draw. So its counter ability, put the top card of the deck into gauge, gain 1 life and draw a card. However, the main reason why I play this card is because it is searchable, and during my FTKs, if I do not have enough gauge but I have the impact already in my hand, I will search this card out, destroy Kakori and Soul Guard so that I can use this Shin Gargantua Punisher. The last spell of the deck, also the most broken card of the deck, is the 1 copy of Sakura Fubuki, recently getting hit by the ban list. It is such a powerful card. By paying 2 gauge, you can nullify a spell cast. You can nullify your opponent's search spells, you can nullify your opponent's Shinji Evo spells. So since we only have access to 1 copy, playing that 1 copy is a must right now. For the items, we play 4 copies of Gakunai, the most versatile spells in DDT. Basically at a quick cost of 1 gauge and 1 life. If you have a Dragod on the field, all monsters on the field gain plus 3k attack power and 1 critical. Pretty important because it buffs out your monster to 12k attack power so that you'll be able to activate some of the spell cards. And also it's the counter ability, if you're being attacked, you may drop a Ninja Arts from hand if you do nullify attack. It's not once per turn, so as long as you have a lot of Ninja Arts in your hands, you can always discard them as negate. It is really good because this way your deck don't really need to play of negates. And the best part is, with Gargantua Kaiser, you will consistently get your item out every single game. And finally, for the impact, we play 2 copies of Shin Gargantua Punisher, Katana World. You may only cast this card if your opponent is 5 life or less and you have a Dragod monster on your field, and the total power of your cards is 12k or greater. Pay 2 gauge, deal 5 damage to your opponent. This card can be nullified and its damage cannot be reduced. So for a very simple cost of 2 gauge and having the standard setup board, you will be able to deal 5 damage to your opponents. Really amazing card. And also with the Kakori combo, you'll be able to do FTK consistently with this deck. So 2 copies of Shin Gargantua Punisher because it is a Yuga Katana World Draninja deck. So now, I'm going to show you the 50 damage combo you can do with this deck so they can impress your friends with it. It's a pretty simple combo. All you need to do is already have Gargantua Dragon in your drop zone prepared. Here's my gauge. I have 3 gauge. I'll pay 1 gauge and call Shin Gargantua into soul. So this card buffs up all my units by 1 extra critical. So this is 3 critical, this is 2 critical, 5 damage. This is 3 critical. So double attack, another 3 critical, that's 11 damage. Now activate Shadow Clone Jutsu. You call 2 monsters over. 3 damage, 14, 17. Now we activate the revert skill, pay 1 gauge to evolve back. 1 card goes in the soul. Next, attack with Shin Gaga, 4 critical, 17 plus 4, 21. Shin G-Evo spell, draw 1 card, then G-Evo into this guy. So I'm going to skip this forward, basically has 3 criticals and triple attack, so that's 9 damage. He spawned 3 tokens when he attacks, so that's additional 9 damage. So 18 plus 21 before, it becomes 39. Now we cast Shin G-Evo spell by paying 1 gauge and evolving the card that has been sent to the drop zone, right on top. 39 plus 6, 45, spawn out 2 tokens, 3 crits, another 3 crits, that's 6 crits, 45 plus 6 equals 51. So in total, there'll be 51 damage just by 3 gauge. So yeah, this is my famous 50 damage katana combo using 3 gauge. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile of Yuga's Draninja deck. Comment down below on which deck from Golden Garga you'd like to see next, and I'll do my best to make it come true. And also, if you're looking for decks like these, spot me by checking out my online shop, www.cardprotagonist.com. Links in the description box down below. We mail worldwide right to your doorstep. So till next time, keep on buddy fighting!